Do it look all right? I'm sitting in my truck at Patterson Park, getting ready for my 1.5 mile daily walk. I was talking to my sister, with my sister, I think it was last week, maybe the week before. But we were talking about our early years growing up, when we were much younger, before I started school, and even back before she started school, actually. Talking about living in the country, and our brother was of the opinion that my dad was trying to return to his idyllic youth as a child growing up on a farm. My sister and I were well, convinced by experience, but also talking with our parents early on, that the reason we lived in the country was so that Dad could grow a big garden, so that we could eat. He grew a big garden because, when the produce came in season, we could eat from the garden, but we had excess. And every year we would put vegetables up in mason jars, seal them up, so we'd have food to eat through the winter months when the garden didn't grow. And every fall, after the summer garden was finished, Pop would plant greens that did well in the cooler weather, and we'd eat a lot of greens as well. I love greens: turnips, collards, mustard, you name it. I love greens. I was reminding my sister of an incident. I just remember, I'm not familiar, or I don't remember all the details, but I remember looking out a window, probably our bedroom window, at my mother with a broom chasing a cow out of the garden. I thought that was funny. I'm sure she got it out, but I don't remember that part. I just have this image hearing her and then looking out the window, and she's got her broom chasing the cow. I guess she was sweeping and saw the cow get into the garden, but she was getting it out of the garden. But that was when we lived out east of Fort Meade. And then when we moved to Homeland, we moved outside of Homeland and to an area where, again, Pop could grow a big garden. And in Homeland, we also had chickens. Got a chicken pen and a coop for the laying hens, so we had eggs, and we had chicken to eat. Again, a big garden. We'd eat from the garden during the summer, and then also put up vegetables in mason jars, lots of mason jars, so that we'd have food to eat through the winter. And again, Pop would grow greens in the fall. And he also raised rabbits. He had several hutches of rabbits that he raised for sale, as well as food for the table. I probably ate more rabbit than I did chicken growing up, because as long as the chickens were laying eggs, we left the chickens alone. And we didn't hatch out many chickens. We'd get most of the eggs for food. Occasionally Pop would leave some in a nest, so we'd have younger chickens coming up, and the males would be friars, and the females would be layers. I also recall when a hen would get too old to be a laying hen, she'd stop laying, or her laying would be real irregular. That became a stew chicken. We would clean that one and cut it up and put it into chicken stew together with a bunch of goodies out of the garden. While we were in Homeland, my mother had, well, what would have been termed in those days a nervous breakdown. Thinking back on it, it was probably just extreme anxiety attack. But my sister said that she and our mother were in our bedroom. We shared a bedroom. My brother and I slept on one bed, and our sister slept on another bed. And my sister and mother were in the bedroom, and my mother was standing on a chair changing the curtains. I guess she was going to wash the curtains that were hanging up, and she was putting up fresh curtains, clean curtains. And my sister said that my brother and I were probably playing under the house. The house was well off the ground, and we could get under the house in the shade, and there was a couple of places where there was clay, so we would turn that clay into modeling clay, sort of make things, but just generally play, make up games and play. But anyway, my mother was standing on the chair changing out these curtains, and my sister said all of a sudden she started talking all kind of stuff that my sister couldn't understand, just all kind of jabbering. And one of the things she said, my sister remembered, was, "I can't take this." And she, after a bit of this, she got down off the chair and told my sister to find my older brother and get him here back into the bedroom. So my sister went out and found my brother. He and I were under the edge of the house playing, and she told him that Mama wanted him right now. So he came in, and my sister said that Mama told him to go to the grocery store, Martin's store, and have them call our dad and tell him to come home, that she needed him. So my brother ran all the way to the store and told Ferdinand, Mr. Martin, that Mama wanted him to call Daddy and get him home. And then he ran all the way back home. And from there, I think Pop took my mom to the doctor. Or she took all of us. We all went, but we stayed in the car or got outside and played around under the shade of the trees. The doctor was in Bartow, which is like 5 miles north. But after that, my mom went and spent a week with our aunt, her sister, in Alturas. The doctor said she needed rest and to be away from household responsibilities. And after the week with her sister, our aunt, she spent another week with my dad's brother, Uncle JD, and his wife, Aunt Betty. And then after that couple of weeks, she came back home. And my sister said, and I kind of remember this as well, that our dad told us that we were going to have to be on our best behavior. We were going to have to be real good, or the doctor wouldn't let Mama come home. So we had to be well behaved so that Mama could come home. I suppose we were. She didn't have any other episodes to my recollection, or my sister's, so I do recall when she was staying with her sister, my aunt in Alturas. We went to see her after a few days, but my sister and my brother and I weren't allowed to go inside and actually visit with Mom. Pop went in and visited with her, and we just stayed outside and played with our cousins. My mom's sister had 2 daughters, and one of them was my sister's age. But we stayed outside, and the visit was primarily my dad visiting with my mom. I think he also visited her when she was staying with his brother and his wife, but I think someone came to sit with us while he went there. I don't remember visiting with him there, although through the years we visited with my uncle and his wife many times. That was a fun place to go. My uncle was a fun guy to be around, had a real good sense of humor, and he and Dad were real close. But other than the nervous breakdown episode, I don't really remember anything negative about that, other than I didn't know what was going on, but evidently it was something. So I never felt like it was our fault. And as I say, in those days they called it a nervous breakdown, but I think today it would just be more aptly classified as an extreme anxiety attack. But psychiatric care in this part of Florida was pretty much non-existent. There may have been some psychiatrists over in Tampa or over on the East Coast and places like Palm Beach, Miami and such, but in Central Florida I don't think there was much in the way of psychiatric care. So my mom never saw anyone other than just the general practitioner, Dr. Murphy, that she visited. That was also our doctor up until we moved back to Fort Meade. Then we were seeing Dr. Lindsay here in Fort Meade, and later on Dr. Varn after Dr. Lindsay retired. But and my sister and I were both of the opinion that Pop wasn't trying to relive his childhood by living in the country. He was trying to feed his family. I never really understood that we were poor until much later in life, because we always had plenty to eat and we had clothes and shoes. My sister remembers our aunt taking her clothes shopping or bringing her clothes and taking her shoe shopping. So our folks had help with keeping us in clothes, but Pop grew all the food we needed, pretty much. Of course, things like sugar and molasses and such. My GoPro overheated. I had to give it a cool down in the pool, or the little lake behind me. I'm trying to think of where I was. Oh yeah, the fact that our life in the country was primarily so Pop could grow a big garden. And this is something he and I talked about as I was growing up, when I was before I was a teenager, but later on. My dad and I spent quite a bit of one-on-one time, more so than my dad and my brother did. My dad and I fished together a lot. We used to, during the summertime when school was out, 2 or 3 times a week, we'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to Alturas to Star Lake and bass fish. And on the ride up there and back, Pop would chat about this, that, and the other. Things when he was growing up, experiences he had driving a truck, that sort of stuff. So I got quite a bit of Pop's personal history just in that. And another summertime activity was during the summer when the packing house wasn't processing fruit. It was when a time when my dad could take care of maintenance issues that he couldn't get to while the plant was running. So some days I would go with him. He would there would be 2 or 3 other people working, but they had other jobs to do. And on occasion, if he had a short job where he needed 2 people, he would get one of those other guys to give him a hand. One particular day I recall, he had an all-day job that was a 2-man or a 2-person job. He needed help holding some stuff and positioning stuff. He was rebuilding a gearbox that drove a conveyor belt in the packing house, or on the outside, on the outer porch on the south side of the packing house. But anyway, I crawled up under the conveyor belt with him, and he taught me how to use a drift pin, how to properly use a ball peen hammer, where you're supposed to place a drift pin on whatever it is you're going to be driving so that you don't burr the ends of it or the edges of it, things like that. I learned a lot just helping Dad doing stuff that I didn't know really what we were doing, other than I learned how to use some tools and what sort of he would tell me the reason we were doing what we were doing, which that was really interesting to me too. I enjoyed that. But getting back to what I was saying, I spent a lot more one-on-one time with my dad than my older brother and my dad did. So there were some things about my dad, and like the things about growing up, about him needing to grow a big garden to feed us all when there was just one income in the family. And simple things like him being drafted in the Army and not volunteering in the Army. There was an exemption he could have taken, but as being sole provider for the family, but he either wasn't aware of it at the time or chose not to take it, feeling an obligation to serve his country. So, but he was drafted. He didn't actually volunteer. He was drafted just like a lot of other people were. But anyway, it's just that conversation with my sister brought back a lot of stuff, and she and I had a good visit. This one's running a little bit long, so I guess that'll do for now.